Welcome everyone, a good Erev Shabbos as we record now this special segment known as For the Shabbos Table, and this was made possible by a special grant from the Reuben family with the request to Hashem that they should be zeicher to a healthy Ben Zachar, and of course that they should have Atzlach and Ruchnias and in Gashmias. We thank very much the Reuben family for making this year possible week to week, and it's a tremendous chus that they have for the thousands of people that have enjoyed this year. We know that Parshas Pinchus is the sugya of kanoyis, zealotry, which is a very difficult sugya. And my Rebbe, Rabban Shel Yisrael, Rav Moshe, used to say that is emes kanoyis and falshe kanoyis. True kanayis and false kanayis. And he said that the way to determine it is, we see in this week's parsha, that when Pinchus saw what Zimri and Cosby were about to do, so it says, Vayikach roimach b'yadai. He took a spear in his hand. That means he didn't have the spear. He saw the problem, now he went looking for a spear to deal with it. While the Rishiva said, Falshe Kanayim, they carry a spear and they look for the problem. He also said there's two ways to be high. One way is to dig under other people, and then you'll be higher than them. And the other way is to build a mountain and stand on top of a mountain. So the way to make ourselves greater is not to dig under other people, but rather to build a mountain of schusim and Torah and mitzvahs, and then we'll be naturally higher. And just I'll add, I don't want to belabor the point, but an example of the ugliness of falshe kanayis. I remember that I had a good Talmud by the name of Reb Nutta Weidenbaum. He's not alive anymore. Zichron l'bracha, schus yogan aleinu. He had a kosher circus on Cholamoid in Borough Park. And I remember he made it an all-male circus and really did it kedas v'kedin. And it was in order that the Fruma Olam should have, of course he made money on it, but he was motivated that the Fruma Olam should have healthier entertainment, an alternative. A lot of people might have gone to Goyish places, Barnum and Bailey and other places, and now they had a kosher circus from an environment. I even remember that I would say Torah sometimes under the big top with over 1,000 children. I would talk about brachas for a few minutes. Anyway, one year he called me up in a panic that he already invested $100,000 into the circus, and there was a group that threatened him that the circus is litzanis, and if he doesn't withdraw it, they will put up signs and they'll ruin his chances to find shidduchim for his children and everything. So he called me up, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I can't even stop it. If I stop it now, I'll lose $100,000. It'll ruin me. So I remember how ugly it was, what they were threatening him, and I told him, go directly to the east side and ask Reb David Feinstein. And he went to Reb David Feinstein, and he told him it's a good thing that what he's doing, and he wrote a letter for him, and he signed it. And of course, these falshe kanoim were not going to start up with Reb David Feinstein, so Baruch Hashem, he was saved. But this is the possibility of the ugliness of kanayis, and one should be careful to stay away from such stuff. Heishiv es chamasi me'al b'nei Yisrael. Hashem says that Pinchus removed and thwarted my anger against the Bnei Yisrael, v'lo chalisi es Bnei Yisrael, and it caused me not to destroy the Bnei Yisrael. So the Sephorna asked, the 24,000 that already sinned, they died. So why would the rest of Klal Yisrael be destroyed if it wouldn't be for what Pinchus did. And the Sifurna says a very scary thing. The Sifurna says because the rest of Klal Yisrael wasn't moicha, they didn't protest. And if you don't protest, then you're considered an accessory to the crime. And this is something that we need to always remember. Think about what happened. It's the 3 weeks. Think about what happened with Kamsa Bar Kamsa. That he went and he slandered us to the government because the rabbis were there when he was thrown out of the wedding, and they didn't say anything. They weren't moicha. It brought about the terrible tragedies of Tisha B'Av because they weren't moicha. If you see something, for example, if you see somebody being not nice to a Rav, to a Talmid Chacham, and you stand by idly, being the silent majority, that's a dangerous thing. You see somebody yelling at his wife in public, and you don't say something. You don't want to be an accessory to such a crime. V'shem ish Yisrael hamukeh, and the man who was killed together with the Midianite princess was Zimri ben Salu, Zimri the son of Salu, Nasi base of Lashimoni, the Nasi of Shevet Shimon. The Marsha in Sanhedrin Pei Beis tells us that Zimri at the time was 250 years old. He was also according to Marsha, he was the son of Shimon ben Yaakov, Yaakov Avinu's grandson, and he was a Nasi, 250 years old. And this is a very scary Musar, and that is Al Tamin Ba'atzmecha Ad Yoimaischa. Don't trust yourself. Here he's 250 years old. He's a prestigious Nasi and respected Nasi of Shimon, one of the most respected people in Klal Yisrael. And he went up in flames. He was killed, and everybody that reads the Parsha throughout the millennia hears how he was harpooned together in an act of shame with the Midianite princess. It's really frightening. The Chassam Sofer says that he's actually none other than Shlumiel ben Suri Shaddai. And the Chassam Sofer says that when somebody doesn't have good mazel, we call him a Shlumiel. And he says it's from this. Zimri ben Salu didn't have good mazel. It's interesting because Shlumiel, if you look at the letters, it reads Sheloi Milei. He's filling his desire to take a Midianite princess. Sheloi Milei. The Sasim Rasecha says that actually Zimri had a kavanah l'shem shemayim, because we know that the 24,000 that died, there was a trick. What happened is they came to buy merchandise. There was an old woman in the front, and she said, "Oh, you could come in and see from our better wares inside." And inside there was a very seductive, beautiful woman who solicited the Jewish man. And then when they were overwhelmed with desire, she said, "I'll only submit to you if you worship this idol." So Zimri took Cosby into the Ananei HaKavod, and in the Ananei HaKavod didn't allow the Avodah Zarah to come in. So therefore he did it so that they should be divested of the sin of Avodah Zarah. Of course, but in the interim, succumbing to the terrible sin of immorality. And that's Sheloi Milei. The idea of Al Tama Ba'atzmecha Ad Yom Moischa is that a person should never say that I can let my guard down, because Yitzray Shel Adam Miskaber Olav B'chol Yom. The Yetzer Hara, this is something we could be assured of, that the Yetzer Hara tries to prevail upon us every day. And we know that the rule is Kol HaGadol Mechaveira Yitzray Gadol Eimenu. Whoever is greater has a greater Yetzer Hara, which makes sense, because once we defeat our Yetzer Hara, so then Hashem says, okay, but you still have to have free will, you still have to have free choice, so I have to make the challenge bigger. And therefore, it's like somebody once said to the Vilna Gaon, I wish I had your Yetzer Hara. You make a cheshbon on how many seconds you were mavatal. And the Gaon said, chas v'shalom, because Hashem is always upping the ante. When we overcome one Yetzer Hara, so then Hashem has to give us another. That's why people wonder why in the Midbar were we so challenged to go 3 days without drink. I mean, that's such a big challenge. I mean, the answer is after seeing all the miracles, the Makis and the splitting of the Yamsuf, getting, man from heaven, having Anani HaKavod, how could we sin? So Hashem had to up the ante of the challenges. And that's why we always have to be on our guard. Yochanan Kohen Gadol became a Tzduki after 80 years. I mean, it's a scary thing. And that's what it says, Ashrei Adam Mefachei Tamid. Now, Ashrei Adam Mefachei Tamid doesn't mean that we're supposed to be neurotic. We said that Daga breaks half the constitution of man. And we also said that Daga has all the beginning letters of the beginning of Aleph Beis, right? It has the Aleph, the Gimel, the Dalet, and the Hey, right? The only thing it's missing is the Beis, because there's Daga if you don't have the Beis and Bitachon. So we're not saying that a person should, be a worrywart. But what it means is the person should be on guard. Just like it's good to be mefached and wear a seatbelt. It's good to be mefached and not smoke. So it's good to be mefached and be on guard. The Yetzer Hara is always there to try to tempt us. He's always there. Every day we say, right? In Ashkivenu we say it every night of our life. He's there before us, telling us not to do the mitzvah, and he's there afterwards, telling us to be proud about it. He's trying to mess us up in any way that he can. The Bnei Korach didn't die, and it's interesting that the Beis Yisrael says that the Arizal was Masakin, that we should say the capital in Tehillim of the Bnei Korach, we say it 7 times before we blow the shofar, right? We all know, Lam Natseach, Livnei Korach Mizmor. Why do we say that? Because we know that the Bnei Korach, they did tshuva at the last very moment. The ground opened up, they were swallowed, but they did tshuva, and they were saved on a ledge on the way down to Sheol, the 7th level of Gehenna, the bottommost pit of Gehenna. They were saved the last minute. So therefore we say Lam Natzech Livnei Korach Mizbar before we blow the shofar, which of course is there to be Ma'arviv Asat. At the very last minute, on Yom Adin, we remember that it's possible to do tshuva even the very last minute. The Yalkut says an interesting thing. The Yalkut says, in what merit did the Bnei Korach do tshuva the last minute? This is a very interesting question. To be able to do tshuva, one can do things to be zeicha to be able to do tshuva. This is a very good thing to know as we march towards Elul. Right, we're already 2/3 the way finished of Tammuz. Right, so we're a little bit more than a month to Elul. It's good to know that there are things that we could do to stimulate tshuva. So the Yalkut says that when Moshe Rabbeinu passed them, the Bnei Korach had a spiritual dilemma. Their father Korach didn't stand up for Moshe Rabbeinu. So if they would stand up, they would be going against their father. And there's a mitzvah of kibbud av v'ein. And ish imay va'aviv tiro. On the other hand, how could they not stand up Moshe Rabbeinu when the Torah says b'ferish b'pnei seva tokum v'adarta pnei zaken, and you should show reverence to pnei zaken, zekana chachma, who has acquired wisdom more than Moshe Rabbeinu. So they were in a quandary, and they decided to stand up for Moshe Rabbeinu, and in that merit they were zeicha to do tshuva. So on this, Rav Steinman says a fascinating thing. On this, Rav Steinman says the reason why they merited to do tshuva is because it says, "Mipnei seva tokum v'yoreisam alekecha." Excuse me, "Mipnei seva tokum v'darta pnei zaken v'yoreisam alekecha." The reward for standing up for Talmidei Chachamim and showing cover to Talmidei Chachamim is more Yiras Shamayim. And therefore, with that boost of more Yiras Shamayim, they were able to do tshuva. So the Gemara tells us that one of the Amoraim was tired and wasn't able to learn. So he stood by the door, and when the Talmidei Chachamim passed by, he stood up for them, Kidei lekibulei schar. So everybody asks, I think it's the Alexander Rebbe asked this kasha, but it says you're supposed to serve Hashem shalayom manas lekabel pras. So what is the idea that he stood by the door, sat by the door in order to get reward? So he answers, because the reward is v'yoreisam elikecha, to manufacture a reward of Yiras Shamayim that you could do. So therefore here we have a very interesting recipe. A person wants to be zeicha, to have a schus to do tshuva. Of course we daven that we should do tshuva. That's a very important point, right? We daven. Hashiveinu avinu l'sarasecha v'karveinu malkeinu l'avodasecha v'karveinu malkeinu l'avodasecha. Bring us to your service, v'achazireinu b'seshuva shalema lefanecha, and return us to a complete tshuva. Of course, we have to start it. That's why we say a shuva shalema. Hashem says, you need to start it. Pischu li pesach kechudei shel machat. Open it up, even like a pinprick, right? And then Hashem v'achazireinu b'shuva shalema lefanecha. In Volitzin we say v'hachein levavam meilecha. Direct our hearts to you. But besides davening to do tshuva, we could also show respect to Talmidei Chacham. You show respect to Talmidei Chacham, v'yoreisam alekecha. Rav Steinman says that's why the Bnei Kairach, the last minute, were able to do tshuva. The final subject I want to discuss with you today, which is a very important subject. Before I do, I want to mention that we do not yet have a sponsor for next week's Chumash Shir. So if you would like to, if you've been enjoying these shiurim, you want to sponsor one share, so text me at 718-916-3100, 718-916-3100, or rmmwsi@aol.com. It says, L'shufam mishpachas hashufami, L'chufam mishpachas hachufami. This is the families of Binyamin. So there's a famous Balaturim. The Balaturim says that every word in the pasuk has a pei. L'shufam mishpachas hashufami, L'chufam mishpachas hachufami. Every word has a pei. Because Binyamin had a mouth, he knew that the brothers sold Yosef, and he didn't tell Yaakov. And because of that control, the pasuk makes note. Every letter, every word has a pei. And they said the same thing in the Choshen that the Kohen Gadol wore. The gem of Binyamin was Yoshpeh, which can be read Yeshpeh. He had a mouth. He was able to tell Yaakov about that Yosef was alive, and it would have revived Yaakov. Yaakov was bereft of the Shechina, but because he was afraid of the repercussions. Yaakov might curse the Shvatim. He didn't tell Yaakov the control. He didn't tell Yaakov for 22 years. Now you have to understand that the Gemara in Bava Basra tells us that 4 people never sinned. The first one was Binyamin. Binyamin never sinned. Amram never sinned. Yishai, the father of David, never sinned. And Kilov, the son of David, never sinned. 4 people only died Be'ityo shel Nachash, because of the sin of the Nachash with Adam and Chava, and man was cursed to die. Otherwise, Binyamin never sinned. But the fact that Binyamin never sinned is not what's highlighted. The fact that he had a mouth and he controlled it, that's what's highlighted, and that's what's brought down. Because of that, the Kodesh Kodashim was built in his chelik. An interesting thing, we want to say that he didn't speak, and we call that yesh peh. You know, we talk about people that they have a peh mapik magolius. Their mouth speaks pearls. When we think about somebody that has a mouth, we think about he's a good Torah teacher, he's a good Torah darshan, he's a good baletza. But the Torah says, you want to know the most magnificent thing, yesh peh, you have a mouth, that means you have control over your mouth. It's a very big thing. What does it mean to have a mouth? Ooh, he knows how to keep his mouth shut. It reminds us what Shimon ben Yomer kol yomai gadalti bein hachachamim v'lo matzasi leguf toiv mishtika. The greatest thing is to know how to keep your mouth silent. The Gaon says that Bereshis stands for 6 things: bitachon, ratzon, ava, shtika, yira, and Torah. To be able to be quiet, to be able to zip it. Ooh, that's a big thing. And you know, of all the pleasures in this world, Hashem allowed the Goyim to indulge in all the pleasures. In the hot baths, in the beautiful Alps, in the Riviera, sumptuous food of all types, the pleasures of women. Goyim could have it all. There's one thing that the guy can't have. It says Hashem saw vayara l'kimes or ki toiv vayavdel. He saw the light was good and he separated. And Rashi says he saw it was good and he separated that the Rishon shouldn't have it. The light of the 6 days of creation, that the Rishon couldn't have. That's the zenith, the pinnacle of pleasure. Says the guy, and you want to know how to be zeicha to that pinnacle of pleasure, the zenith, the ultimate? He says, if a person has lashon hara to say, and he holds back and he doesn't say it, he's zeicha to that pleasure. That's the meaning of yesh peh. You want to know? You hold back. That's the biggest thing, to hold back, to control oneself from not saying lashon hara. It's very important because we know that during the 3 weeks we're coming to the time of Tisha B'Av, where Hashem destroyed the Batei Mikdashos, and the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because of sinas chedim, and the Maharsha says because of lashon hara. A person has to work on saying, you know, I could tell my spouse this, but let me not say anything. Let me not say anything. To hold back from saying lashon hara is such a big thing. And remember, when Hashem made us as a nefesh chaya, the Targum says to be a nefesh chaya is l'ruach memalala, a spirit that speaks. That's a window to our neshama. And this self-control is something that we really work upon during the 3 weeks, this self-control. And this was Binyamin, because of this midah, not the fact that he didn't sin, because of this midah, that's why the Kodesh Kodashim was built in his chelik. You know, we have a shul. We want it to be a mikdash ma'at. We have to safeguard it from any type of lashon hara. That makes it worthy to be a sanctuary. We want to thank again the Rubin family. We want to thank you all for joining us and wish you a very, very wonderful Shabbos.